Hey everybody, this is Josh Paul, host of the Small Marketing Teams podcast. I'm really glad that you're checking out the show today. If you're trying to grow your business and you're not a household name or a well-funded startup, you need to do things differently, and that's what we get into on this podcast. If that's you, go ahead and click subscribe on the screen right now so that you'll get notified when we put out new tips, new tutorials, and new advice for small marketing and sales teams. How would your company's sales performance change if you could give your sales team an extra hour or two of selling time each day? Small Marketing Teams, episode 29.
You're listening to the Small Marketing Team Show with Josh Paul, the podcast where you'll learn how to achieve big growth without a big budget.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to today's session of the Small Marketing Teams Show, the podcast that marketers, salespeople, and business owners rely on to learn how to do more with less. Each week, I'll teach you how you can grow your company without the big budgets that we associate with marketing today. Whether you're the only marketer in your company, and you're also the salesperson, the CEO, and the person who does payroll, or you have a marketing team big enough to need an org chart, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Josh Paul. Let's get started. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this episode of the Small Marketing Teams podcast. I want to make this the most valuable few minutes of your day. There's a lot going on here at Small Marketing Teams. We are pumping out content. I have a great team that is working with our clients every day, and we're putting more process and communication and automation into our programs. So that gives me more time to talk to you, to share ideas, to teach people things online all day long, as well as working with our clients one-on-one. We had a great inbound hackathon a couple weeks ago. If you don't know about the inbound hackathons, they are a 2-hour work session where we bring together, it's a really low-cost way to get expert advice and ideas from HubSpot experts, as well as other users who are in your shoes. We bring people together for 2 hours. You join for as long as you want. It's a kind of a virtual user group where you're sharing ideas, you're pulling up your screen, you're validating things that you're working on. You're learning small nuggets of gold that will help you get unstuck and get you further in your inbound sales and marketing processes. So check it out. The next inbound hackathon is June 19th. You can go to inboundhackathon.com to get your ticket. So today, I want to walk you through an experiment that my team and I did that highlights how using HubSpot's sales tools correctly can help your sales reps redirect 30 hours a month back to selling and building relationships. There's all types of research out there that says that salespeople only spend 2 or 3 hours a day on selling activities. The rest of the time is spent on CRM activities, data entry, sales admin type activities. And so we want to take more of those hours and redirect them towards selling, because that allows you to have more sales conversations, close more deals without needing to hire more people. And see, whether you have a huge sales team or a growing sales team or a small sales team, by getting your sales team to work 10 to 20 times more leads, even 5 times more leads, is a huge competitive advantage for you. Where this experiment came from was being tired of sales jargon, tired of business jargon. Terms like sales enablement, even lead generation, marketing automation, they're meaningful terms and they're really important to your business. But you get to the point where if you're not working in them every day, you don't understand the nuances of what it actually means for your business. If you say, we need to implement marketing automation, what does that mean? What part of the funnel is it going to impact? There are hundreds of things that marketing automation can do that are both prospect facing and behind the scenes. And to support the sales team, it turns into sales automation. What does that mean? So I wanted to take something like the HubSpot sales tools, when they say, oh yeah, we have sales automation and email templates and ways to do things faster. Is that actually true? I wanted to do this experiment. So what we did is we took a scenario that's really common for salespeople. A lot of times when you're distributing content, whether it's an ebook or a new executive report or a webinar, your marketing team is doing it to the bulk of your list. They're sending out marketing campaigns, highly personalized, to try to get people to consume that content, download that offer, register for that webinar. But when it comes to the people who sales is engaged with, sales is trying to contact, sales is trying to build relationships with, sales is trying to bring down the sales funnel, bring through the buying process, marketing isn't going to reach out to those people. That isn't the domain of the salespeople. You don't want marketing trampling over the messaging, the relationships that your sales rep is trying to establish. It's also very common if you have an account-based model where you have a series of target accounts that you're trying to get in front of. If marketing handles the communication with those target leads, it's just going to end up as another marketing email in their inbox. But as sales is trying to build relationships, show value, and get into a sales conversation or set up a meeting with that target account, the value's better off coming from sales. So the scenario that we're working with here is I have a webinar training next week that I'd like to invite my prospects to. I'd like to invite the people who my sales team is engaged with to that webinar. So I picked 5 leads and I sent out an email to each one of those leads. And I did it in the traditional way that you would from an email client or from your CRM, but just a one-off, writing an email, copying the link to register for that webinar into that email and sending that email. And I timed how long it took. And you'll actually see in the show notes, in the blog post that goes with this podcast, the video of me doing this, step by step, click by click. I'm narrating the entire time. And then on the flip side, I did it using the HubSpot sales tools. Because when you talk to people about the HubSpot sales tools, they say, oh, that's really cool. A lot of them, that's the reason why they chose HubSpot. But implementing the sales tools and getting your sales team to use those sales tools is a very different story. And so I talk to HubSpot customers every week that have access to the sales accelerator tools inside of HubSpot, but they're not using them. They're either unaware that they have access to them or what they do, or they just don't want to layer in something new to their process. They're overwhelmed already. So instead of telling them my story and how I've grown sales and helped sales reps get into more sales conversations at my companies and at my clients' companies, I could do that all day long and it still wouldn't get through. So I wanted to take a different approach. And with this experiment, I wanted to collect real data. So in the second part of the experiment, we sent 5 invitations to the same webinar using the HubSpot email templates tool and task queues inside the HubSpot sales platform. Now, before I get into the results, I want you to take a minute and guess what the time was to send 5 emails out to each person individually, 5 custom emails that I had to pound out on the keyboard. And then how long did it take to send 5 emails using HubSpot's email templates and task queues? How long did each one take? Let me give you a hint by walking you through the process for each one. I documented click by click, keystroke by keystroke, what I needed to do to send out each email. You'll see it all in the video, but this is the fastest way to get the rundown. So when I was writing the emails individually, custom to each contact, first I had to locate each contact in the CRM. So then I had to open a new outgoing email. That was a simple click. Then I had to type the subject line. Then I had to type out the email. Then I had to insert the link to the webinar. And then I proofread the email, which you should always do. And then I clicked send. So it was click, click, type the subject line, type the email, click to paste in the webinar URL. I read it, and then I clicked to send it. So a bunch of clicks, but the typing part and the thinking part took some extra time. So when I switched to the second model, the different group of sending 5 emails using the HubSpot sales tools, here's the process that I took. The 5 contacts were already in a task queue, and the email copy was in a HubSpot template. So all I needed to do was start the task queue. I didn't have to go search for the contact in my list or in the CRM. So it already took me to that contact's record. I clicked to open a new email. I selected the template that I wanted to send. That was another click. And then I personalized the first sentence. That's the only typing that I needed to do. I proofread the email, and then I clicked send. So you see there's much fewer steps and much less thinking and typing and more clicking. Now, I want you to know as a podcast listener here, you guys are the first people to hear the results. Before I publish this on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on our blog, you guys are hearing this first. So for approach number 1, sending the 5 emails to contacts by writing and sending each email individually. It took me 13 and a half minutes to get those emails out. Everything from finding the contact and opening a new email and writing the email, proofing the email, sending the email. It took me 13 and a half minutes. Not too bad. That was sales productivity approach number 1 in this experiment. Now approach number 2, where I'm using HubSpot's email templates and task queue features. We're going to call that sales productivity approach number 2. And you'll see it all laid out in the show notes here. So again, the activity is the same, sending 5 emails to invite people to this web class next week. That took me a little over 3.5 minutes. Did you hear that? 13.5 minutes to send 5 emails versus 3.5 minutes to send 5 emails by using only 2 of the tools inside HubSpot's sales platform. So I didn't use the meetings link. I didn't use snippets. I didn't use the sequences tool. Just those 2 tools, email templates and task queues. I saved roughly 10 minutes when reaching out to 5 contacts via email. This type of time savings has huge implications for your sales team. If you're an SDR or a BDR, let's assume that you're working 200 leads at once and assume that you reach out to these leads once a week. This time savings is about 6 hours and 40 minutes per week. What would you do with an extra 7 hours per week that you could redirect towards selling and building relationships and strategic thinking? That's 30 hours a month. That's almost 500 hours a year that you're giving back to your sales team. If you don't have an SDR or a BDR and you're working 60 leads at once, there's a whole chart in the show notes that's going to help you do this math for your specific model. But assume that you're reaching out to your 60 contacts twice a week. Sales productivity approach number 2 is going to give you 4 extra hours a week that you can redirect back to selling. That's 18 hours a month during the work week that you're going to be able to put back into more strategic activity because you're able to work more efficiently. That's over 200 hours a year. And these are just 2 of the tools. Never mind the crazy efficient lead management structure. Never mind the other sales tools that are available. I was really impressed by these results. 5 emails, 13.5 minutes versus 3.5 minutes. What are you going to do with all of that extra time? So to wrap up, your sales team is performing at its current level using their current process and habits and tools. How would your company's sales performance change if you could give your sales team an extra hour or 2 of selling time each day? If you're a sales executive or a sales manager and you can translate those found hours into productive selling time and not water cooler hours or long lunches, it can have a significant impact on your company's growth. Ultimately, the time savings from just this one experiment translates into 30 to 50% more sales conversations, more demos, more proposal calls, more negotiation calls. The bottom line is that when you fully adopt processes and tools to create more selling hours in the day, you have a competitive advantage. However, neglecting to arm your sales reps with time-saving tools to help them touch more prospective customers without losing the personalization puts your company at a big disadvantage, which can take years to recover. If you know that your sales team is not as efficient as they could be, your sales process is not as simple and organized as it could be, if you know that you have leads coming in and not enough of those leads are turning into revenue because your sales team doesn't have a process to keep them from slipping through the cracks or dying on the vine, I want to offer my podcast listeners a 30-minute lead conversion audit where we're going to identify if the bottom of the funnel, if that sales process is where you should be focusing your time, money, and effort in your growth plan, or if you need to turn on the spigot and get more leads. 9 times out of 10, you don't want to turn on leads and traffic until you have your sales process and your lead management process dialed in. You're going to come away from this quick lead conversion audit with ways to make your sales team more efficient, as well as a calculation of how much revenue is leaking from your current sales process. So if this podcast episode resonated with you, sign up at hssalessuccess.com/audit. Grab a time that works for you, and my team's happy to help. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you online.